Okay, thanks, Riley.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm just sorry, guys. I'm a little bit disorganized here, trying to get all this technical stuff figured out. So let me just ramble a little bit. So the university is pretty much moving in the direction of closing. They've asked all non-essential personnel to work from home. They're in the process of trying to move as many students out of the residence halls as they can. In that process, we've sort of lost our ability to do the virtual tour that we were hoping that we could do today. Lance and I were talking as of yesterday afternoon about whether we might still be able to do it. It just got to the point where it wasn't going to be at all feasible. So I apologize for that. I did have some videos queued up that would give us a look at the Champion Center. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get them back up. I was curious as to whether or not the YouTube connection was part of the problem I was having connecting. So I'm going to try to call it up while we're here. I don't think you're seeing my screen, are you?
No, and Brian, there might be something covering your camera. It looks like we're not seeing your face.
How's that?
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. Another face made only for radio. But we've got Lance on the phone with us, and I thought one of the things we could do is have a conversation with Lance about some things that are going on over in the athletic department and at the football program. So Lance, thanks for joining the call. How are you doing, and how's everybody over in Champion Center doing?
As you guys are monitoring the situation from a student perspective and a staff perspective, it's very fluid with us as well. We've provided accommodations for our student athletes that are still here on campus, the freshmen. We have some student athletes that are living off campus, and they've chosen to be here over spring break as well. So as far as accommodations we have for our student athletes, we have our psychological health and performance still open. Our academic support is still open, as well as our fueling stations where our student athletes eat. So, but everything's fluid here. Things are changing as we speak. 2 days ago, our athletic director, Rick George, just made a statement to our student athletes that they were able to leave effective immediately. So quite a number of our student athletes took his recommendation and got home to their families before spring break. So right now, we're kind of in flux, just as many of our students are on campus. This is something none of us have been through before in our lifetimes. Hopefully you'll have to go through this again, but we're learning, adapting, and moving forward as best we can.
So what's the plan for, football at the collegiate level, football in the Pac-12 conference, football at CU? I know that spring practice is a big and important deal for all competitive football teams. Have they made any decisions about spring practice at any level?
Well, our spring practice at CU is everything's postponed. So nothing's been canceled or finalized anything in that manner. But we've postponed spring practice. Our guys aren't due to be back here until Sunday the 29th. We have a 6 o'clock team meeting, and what we're going to do at that point over the next week is just keep them up to date as things transition, as things become more finalized from a NCAA perspective. We have a call here at noon today where we'll get some more details on spring practice. But I think right now, Brian, we're planning on coming back here after spring break. I don't think we'll be back in football-related activities until the NCAA allows us to. But right now, we're just having any contingency plans that we have. The call we have here at noon, we're actually going to talk about whether we move spring ball back until June. So that's kind of where we are in our thinking and in our mindset. Right now, we're just trying to support our student athletes the best we can, not from a football perspective, but just from a health and wellness perspective, and make sure that they're getting everything they need to be comfortable while they're here.
Got it. There were no decisions made at the conference level or even at the NCAA about spring ball?
Well, each conference is doing what they individually choose to do from the Power 5 perspective. From the Pac-12 perspective, they suspended all activities, whether it be conference related championships through the spring. So, but that's spring ball is kind of it's been each campus has decided what they want to do, and what we decided to do is suspend our activities here.
Got it. Okay. So, yes, it's great that we're supporting student athletes the way that we are. To try to take it back to something more relevant to the class, how has all of this affected our recruiting?
As you guys know, we had a new coaching change. A coaching change that happened after Coach Tucker left here. Carl Durrell's our new head coach. Going back to my history with Carl over a 20-year period, I was actually Carl's graduate assistant when he was the offensive coordinator here years ago. So had a long-lasting relationship with Carl. But to answer your question, from a football perspective, from our recruit perspective, we've only had one young man asked to get out of his national letter of intent, which was signed by him in February. He's a kid from Cleveland, Ohio, and he's actually, after speaking on the phone with Coach Durrell, he's kind of up in the air. He thinks he still wants to come here. His mom wants him still to come here. So all of our recruits that we had and signed in December, the early signing period, and February, the traditional signing period, only one of those young men is asked to go in the portal, so to speak, and hopefully we can get him back. But the majority of our recruits are on board. They plan to arrive. We have a summer bridge program that helps them acclimatize and assimilate to campus when they get here in mid-June. So we're excited. All of our signees are on board. The staff that was kept by Coach Durrell consisted of defensive coordinator Tyson Summers, outside linebacker Coach Brian Michalowski, Darren Shiverini, our head recruiter, an alum, and Darian Hagan, one of our alums. He was a running back coach. So those four did a great job in keeping that class together until Coach Durrell was hired with his new staff. So we are fully staffed now, have a great staff in place, and they're all doing a great job as far as working the phones, revisiting and trying to build some trust and some dialogue with these new recruits before they get here on campus. But it's been very positive so far.
That's great that you only lost one, and even the one is still thinking about recommitting.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a lot of work that went into keeping keeping that class intact. Can you share anything?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, can you share anything with us about, your effort at selling a new head coach? So, there was some amount of salesmanship, I'm sure, that went into talking to the various candidates and sharing with them, what we have to offer here at CU and, what the opportunity to be the new head coach would look like. Can you share with us, what that selling was like and kind of how it is that you managed to make the decision that you did to recruit Coach Bell, and kind of what his issues were, and just kind of give us a peek behind the curtain, if you will.
I'll take you back to when Coach Tucker decided to go to Michigan State. I was with him the night that everything went down, and that's something I'll put in a book someday to share. But that was quite a night. But I led the search for Coach Tucker before. We thought we had identified the right man to lead this program. Unfortunately, Coach Tucker, was able to. He wanted something different. He wanted to go back to his Midwest roots. He was able to double his salary. Some things that were out of our control took place, and he decided to move on. As soon as that happened, you always keep a short list of candidates, and I immediately went to my short list and determined, some of those guys weren't going to be viable candidates for whatever reason, but compiled a list, submitted it to our athletic director, Rick George. And as soon as I submitted the list to him, we started our work. And our work really consisted of we wanted to go to a central location. And because what happens a lot of times, Brian, when you do a coaching search is, whether it be Rivals or 247 or some of these recruiting sites, they try to track where you're going, try to get the scoop and be the first to report whether it's right or wrong. But we went to a central location in the United States, and we flew in candidates to that location.
Really?
So we interviewed, Yeah, we interviewed 4 candidates at this location. We went to see one more candidate, and then we came back to Boulder. And upon returning to Boulder, Rick and I were sitting in his office and, drilling down into the list and determining which guys we thought were viable candidates, which were not. We had about 3 or 4 more conference calls with some potential candidates as well on the phone that day. And then as we sat there, Rick looked at me and we were talking, and he said, what about Carl Durrell? And I was mad because I should have thought that because Carl's a longtime friend of mine. Like I said, Carl was a former offensive coordinator here in the mid-90s under Coach Neuheisel. I've known Carl for 25 plus years. I was his graduate assistant working with him with wide receivers when I thought I wanted to be a coach. And I've stayed in contact with Carl over the years. So I immediately stepped out of Rick's office, called Carl. And the last time we had this job, Carl reached out to me, to share his interest in the job, but we went to Coach Tucker. This time I just mentioned to Carl over the phone. I said, hey, would you be interested in talking to us about the CU job? And he said, I would love to talk to you about the CU job. I thought about calling you, but I knew you had a long list of candidates. And out of respect for Eric Bieniemy, who Carl knows and many of you guys know, Eric Bieniemy he's a buff. He's a Buff alum. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's one of our best football players, student athletes we've ever had here, and he's now the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, and recently won the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. So he knew Eric was part of the process. We had gone down and did a deep dive with Eric. It was determined by both parties it wasn't the right time for Eric because he had NFL dreams to pursue to be a head coach. And so out of respect for Eric and his being a part of the process, Carl did not engage us this time in the process, but it was more than happy to talk to us. Now, ironically, a lot of things, I believe in serendipity. I believe in coincidence. I believe in luck. When I talked to Carl about the job, he said, Lance, as a matter of fact, I'm flying into Denver tonight because Carl has a home here. He built a home here. His wife, Kim, has lived here for the past 2 or 3 years. His daughter, Lauren, was a volleyball player here who just, as a graduate transfer, went to Auburn to complete her senior year. So Carl has an affinity for Colorado. He's coached in the NFL for a number of years. He could have lived anywhere in the country, but chose to build his home here. So he was coming home on a Thursday night to see his wife the next day. So as soon as that happened, we set a meeting with Carl to interview him at his home here in Boulder on a Friday. That was unbeknownst to no one. No one knew about the call. No one knew what was happening. And Rick and I left the office at 10:30, interviewed Carl from about 11 to 2 on a Friday, offered him a job in his home, and he accepted. So that's how that went down.
Were there any concerns that he had or any issues that he had raised or any objections that came up that you had to respond to in order for him to feel comfortable making the decision?
He was very comfortable, I think, for a number of reasons. He had been here before. He's been in the NFL for the past 15 years. He had some offers to go back and coach collegiately. He had been a head coach at UCLA, his alma mater, in the early aughts. But as far as reservations from Carl, I think the only reservation he had was simply knowing that Rick and I were going to be here. He has respect for both of us. We have respect for him, and I think when you have that relationship going into it, it eases some of the anxiety that a coach may have coming into an unknown situation, particularly in a college situation when you haven't been in college for so long. So we were able to alleviate those concerns. I think based upon our relationship with him, he knows Boulder. He knows CU. He loves this university. He considers CU his home and not UCLA. So I don't think he really had any concerns. He knew that our facilities were top notch because I'd given him a tour of our facilities 2 years ago when he was visiting Lauren here during her volleyball career here. So he was familiar with the new facilities. As I said, he had respect for me and Rick, and really had no concerns. He knew that we had recruited at a better level since Shiverini had been here. And it also helped, I think, that Darren Shiverini was here. And actually, Carl was Darren's position coach when Darren played football here. So I think all those things fell into place. He has an affinity for CU, a love for Boulder, and for us, we interviewed some other candidates that we thought were credible candidates. But at the end of the day, after what happened with Mel, we realized, we have a man who wants to be here. He wants to be at CU. And my point to Carl was what I'm looking for in a coach is someone who has appreciation when they look out their window and they see the flat irons. They're not looking beyond the flat irons or anywhere else for an opportunity. They appreciate where their feet are. They're committed to where their feet are, and that's what Carl is.
How's Shiv doing? We sort of all were pulling for Shiv after you and he came to the classroom. Disappointed for him, he didn't get the job, but happy for him that he was named the offensive coordinator. And it sounds like he's managed to get past it and is ready to go again. How's he doing?
He's doing great. I think, you have the additional shock to your system that you didn't get the job. And for Darren, he had a great interview. And I told him that. I said, you had a great interview. You were everything we thought you were. But I think the most important thing for us is, I think Rick wanted a seasoned hand. And our goal for Darren is to, as you said, we want to build Darren into the head coach he deserves to be and give him every opportunity to be a head coach. It may not be here at Colorado, but we want to prepare him for that next step in his career. But we also understand the value Darren brings to our department, the love he has for CU. He's one of the best recruiters in the country. And we're excited to have him on the staff, and Carl's excited that he's chosen to stay here.
Yeah, good. Well, let him know that we were asking about him. I was thinking about reaching out to him back before everything got kind of confused, and certainly don't want to step on any toes over there either by going directly to any of the coaches. So let him know that we were asking about him.
Will do.
So I'm getting some messages. How are the players reacting to the new head coach, and have they met? What's the process that Carl goes through to make the team feel like it can't be business as usual, but that we're in a good place. We're going to be able to carry on.
Yeah, that's a great question. When any head coach comes in, the first thing you want to do, and Carl's a little bit different than other people that when your students are able to meet Carl, you'll see that he's very transparent. He's very honest. He has a very he wants to connect with student athletes in an emotional way. And so the first thing Carl did is I worked with him on building his staff, and that's one thing I was directly involved in as far as making the right contacts, talking about he'd been out of the college game, but also had a lot of people who had an interest in joining him here as staff members. Was able to make some determinations with him on the right people to bring in here as far as staff members. So that's one thing I was spearheading with him. But from Carl's perspective, the most important thing for him was he wanted to meet and talk to each individual player. So his first week here, that's what he did all day for 4 days in a row. We had 20-minute meetings set up with players. We had a sign-up sheet. Each player individually came by and talked to him and sat down with him. Carl had a detailed, list of questions he wanted to ask them, and it was really an open forum for them to get to know each other. And he just wanted them all to know, as a student athlete, to a man, that he's here for them. There's an open door policy. He's looking for transparency in his relationships, and the only way they're going to be able to trust him is to see him be transparent with them. And he's hoping that it's going to be reciprocated, and it has been so far. Great response by our student athletes. I think when you feel a sense of abandonment that they felt, a sense of betrayal that they felt by Coach Tucker, it was very important for me and Rick to surround our student athletes with the right man of character for them. And what you'll see with him is he's a man of integrity, man of character, and that's when it comes down to X's and O's, I think a lot of guys are good football coaches, but we're looking for a little bit more here. Somebody with a little depth of integrity, depth of character, and someone that you have a familiarity with, because a lot of times you're not sure what you're going to get in a head coaching candidate. So we went with someone that we're familiar with, that we respect, and I think that our student athletes respect, because he's coached at the highest level of, whether it be in the NFL, where he was just named. He was named assistant head coach the day we called him and offered him a job. So when you're named assistant head coach in the NFL, that carries quite a bit of clout, because that means the head coach that you're coaching with at that level trusts you, that if something were to happen to him, this is your team. So, Carl had to weigh some options, but for him, as he told us, any other university called, even if UCLA wanted to come back there, he wasn't going to go back there. But because it was CU and it holds such a special place in his heart, he was more than willing to take this opportunity and try to make a huge difference here, not only with our alums and students and fans, but with our student athletes, most importantly, because he wants to grow and develop young men and take them not only to the level of the NFL, but help them be husbands and leaders and fathers and businessmen, and help them to direct their own path in their own life the way they see fit. And emphasizing the value of education and combining that with football makes you it makes you a special person. And he's understood that, and he's been a great developer of not only talent on the field, but young men off the field. That's what we're trying to do here.
So you mentioned you mentioned Bieniemy with the Chiefs. Probably
Yeah.
would have been the first choice if he would have been of a mind to want to turn his back on the career he's got going in the NFL. Was there anyone else out there that you felt was, pretty good target, and for whatever reason it just didn't work out?
Yeah, I won't divulge any names, of course, but we interviewed. I think I mentioned Eric Bieniemy, of course, and that was no secret to anybody. There was one other coach that we really were attracted to, and there was some mutual attraction there, but in the end, it just didn't work out. But at the end of the day, things work out the way they're supposed to work out, and I firmly believe that. And I think we're in a great situation now, and it's the best thing for our student athletes that things happen the way they did.
It's almost analogous to needing to have a good funnel of prospects that you're working on, because you're not going to close every one of them. You're not going to necessarily close the most attractive one, so you have to be ready to go with a fallback position. Not that I certainly wouldn't want to call Carl a fallback position, but you know what I mean.
No, and that happens in all walks of life, not just from a sports perspective. As you said, it happens in sales, it happens in business, it happens in real estate, it happens in a lot of different areas. You've got to be flexible, be ready to adapt, and be ready to change on the move, and really not be shocked or surprised by anything that happens in a process you're going through. I think the more open-minded you are, and the more of the more of a strategy you have and what you're going to accept for a candidate or for a client helps you as well.
So we've got the recruiting class that Mel had recruited pretty well stabilized. We obviously still have a funnel of high school student athletes that we're looking to recruit in 2021. Is this a quiet period of time where that class is concerned, and has, Carl and the new staff begun to talk to them? And what does the virus do to the recruiting? So a lot of stuff, right, where the class of 2021 is concerned. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about what's going on with that class?
Yeah, we have four verbals for 2021, and they're all Colorado student athletes. So they're at three high schools in Colorado. Two of them are teammates at a school in Colorado. We've reached out to all of them. We've invited them to campus. Now, unfortunately, we had invited them to campus for this upcoming weekend, so of course we had to cancel those and move those back. But great conversation with those kids, with those student athletes as well, and their families. They're comfortable. They're confident in the staff, even though they haven't met them yet. And I think that's a continuation of the staff we had in place. When you have Hagan and Michalowski and Summers and Shiverini, you have four people that they were already connected to. And while they may not be their position coaches per se, they do have a familiarity with who they are on the staff. So that helps, going in those initial conversations you have with those student athletes. Now, for us, as we move things back and adjust because of the coronavirus, we're looking to perhaps hold spring ball, I said, in June. And what we do in June is to take advantage of the situation. June's been a great month for us to have student athletes from in-state and out of state on campus in an unofficial capacity. So we'll still continue planning that way and moving in that direction. So for those June dates, but as those calls and we have at the NCAA, as we finalize those calls, we'll have a better idea and inclination of what we're going to be able to do with those next steps. But 2021 candidates, the kids are still positive. They're still verbally committed to CU, and we'll still move forward.
Okay, good. So, Lance, we're at a point in the semester now where we're working on what we call the presentation of capability, which is the way that we provide information to potential buyers about what it is that we have to offer, and how it is that it, that it responds to their needs, their wants, their evaluation criteria, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we use a features and benefits kind of a structure that we do that with, where we'll talk about something, and the example I used in the classroom was the recovery pools. But then we talk a little bit about the benefits that those features can offer. And in that particular example, it was that the players had something available to them to help them recover, keep them healthy, allow them to continue playing, continue to feel good about their experience, sleep well at night, and to take it to an extreme, continue to get playing time, get visibility to NFL coaches, and potentially one day make it to the NFL. So that's kind of the way that we've been talking about it. We also talk about the different methods that capability is presented, and one of the reasons that we like to go to the Champion Center is because it's an example of what we call a site visit, which is taking a potential buyer to see the product actually being used, or to meet the people that are actually going to be delivering the product to them. So it's a little bit unfortunate that we're not going to be able to visit the Champion Center. But another way that we present capability is using videos. And I remember that when Mel Tucker made his decision to become our head coach, he did it without having visited campus. He did it without visiting the Champion Center. And
Right.
As I remember him telling it, he was given lots and lots of information that he could look at remotely. And I think one of the things that he was able to look at was a video that we had produced showing him all the things that were going on in the Champion Center. So what I thought I would do, since it's relevant to where we are in the semester, and it's relevant to another method of the presentation of capability, is that I would show that video that Jamie had put together, and ask you to stay on with us, and maybe you can comment along the way. Now, I'm not sure how all this technology is going to work, so the first thing I'm going to do is ask Riley to make me the presenter.
How do we do that?
Well, actually, I think, Brian, you would just share, I believe, right?
No, I don't.
On the bottom, I think you can click share screen because I don't think anyone has it right now.
Yeah, you just go down to the bottom of the window there and click the green share
Okay.
button.
So I did that.
Okay. And then you need to select. It'll probably prompt you for like a screen. There you go. Now you're sharing.
So everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, now hopefully this will work. And then, David, if I need to do something to my screen to kind of maximize it for everybody.
Just probably the YouTube on the YouTube screen there. Just click maximize. That should work.
Their legacy.
Can you hear
There
it?
you go. Yep.
Setting their history.
There you go.
Stone.
I'm going to start this over because I didn't do it from the very beginning. Okay.
Thank you,
So
sir.
it's going to open in what they call the Thunder Chute, or the Thunder Tunnel. Lance, which one is it?
Yeah, so it's called the Thunder Chute. This is where our team walks out from the locker room, and they walk out, and this is called the Thunder Chute, as Brian said. Go ahead, Brian, you can play it.
So unfortunately, this is a very cool experience, and we get to do it when we go over on site. So try to imagine being in here. This is the chute leading from the locker room to the field.
Yep, so we come out to the field, we come out behind the best mascot in college football, as you know. This is our weight room. It transitions right into our indoor practice facility. The weight room is 15,000 square feet of space. The young man you see there, Tedrick Thompson, is now playing for the Seattle Seahawks.
Someone who reaches the peak of achievement, who stands victorious at the pinnacle of success. Someone who wins.
So everything you see here, imagine you're 17 years old and you get to see kind of our history. That's our locker room right here, our tradition of our program. And one thing we want to do whenever we have student athletes on their visit is to showcase what they have, what they're going to see, feel, and touch every day. And when you walk into our locker room right here, it's kind of a, you know, you're walking into Colorado. You know, the stonework you see on the sides is consistent with campus. We've got the Ralphie on the logo on the ceiling, so our head coach stands right there. He's able to speak to every student athlete. They can have all eyes on him. One side is defense, one side's offense. Those are our message boards as well. That's, and as you see, as you transition and walk through the locker room, the very back is where our players' lounge is. So somewhere they've built some connectedness and some camaraderie back there. We have a study area back there as well, PS4, Xbox, and then there's a chill room behind there where we have recliners where they can relax before they go to class. We're a morning practice team, so our guys are here every day at 6:30 in the morning. We're on the field by 8:45, off the field by 11, and then they have classes all afternoon.
You know, I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and I've also been in some very nice country clubs where they have great locker rooms. This is an unbelievable locker room. I mean, first of all, when you walk in, unless someone told you, you wouldn't know that you were necessarily in a locker room. The lockers don't look like lockers. They look like closet doors. They're all done in, I think, a wood paneling of some kind. It doesn't smell like a locker room.
So every locker we have is ventilated. So where the shoulder pads are, it's ventilated. And then at the very bottom of the lockers, there's a pull-out compartment for shoes, so it's ventilated there as well. So as Brian said, you wouldn't know you're in a locker room until the pads come on. And our locker room, the student athletes, they respect their space. No food's allowed in there, so they don't eat in there. They respect their space, and they can eat and drink in the players' lounge, but no food's allowed in there. So, but they respect the space and have done a great job maintaining it.
And I remember that at the time that we were building Champion Center, was it Oregon that had kind of like the premier locker room at the time? Or was
so we toured a lot of locker rooms. We toured Oregon, we toured USC. And when you go to Oregon, there's this very nice, but it's stainless steel. It's a little antiseptic. It feels kind of like you're in a hospital. We wanted to have a Colorado feel. So once again, when you walk in this locker room, you know you're in Colorado. There's no question to where you are in the country.
Undaunted, confident in their abilities and in their
Okay, this is our auditorium, and when you guys do come visit us, which you will eventually, this is our auditorium. This is where we have our team meetings. It seats 160 people. But as you see, once again, it's a unique space to Colorado. We have the simulated flat irons on the side, built into the walls, and we use this for our meeting space, pregame meetings. And we also rent this space out for any corporations that want to use our space. We'll rent that out in the summer to generate revenue as well. So, and we have meeting rooms for each individual team or unit, whether it be wide receivers or quarterbacks. So those are all rentable spaces too. So what a corporation will do is rather than go to a hotel and be bored, they'll rent the Champion Center. This is our third floor. They'll rent the third floor from us. They can have their keynote address in here, and then they'll do breakout sessions in some of our meeting rooms. Okay, these are our recovery pools. So Brian mentioned these earlier. These are directly they're directly the wall where you see Colorado Buffaloes. Behind that wall is where our locker room and showers are. So the first pool you see is 50 degrees. The other pool is 98 degrees. After every training session, our student athletes, they come and they walk 5 to 7 laps in the cold pool, 5 to 7 laps in the hot pool. Then they'll most likely sit in the hot pool for a while, but then those double doors, the black doors you see at the end of the video here, that's where our locker room is. They can walk directly into the locker room. So once again, it's very great space, functional space for our student athletes. And when I played here, we didn't have recovery pools. We would jump in Boulder Creek. That was our recovery pool. So we've come a long way since then. No comments, Brian.
I tried to describe the recovery pools in class last week. I'm not sure I did it justice, but now the students can see what I was trying to describe. You know, on the one hand,
Yeah.
it almost looks like it's just a decoration, you know, with the Colorado Buffaloes splashed across the wall, the Buffalo logo in the middle, and then the lighted pools underneath. You know, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you might think it was just some kind of a decoration, and it wasn't really all that functional. The other thing that I think we should mention is that, you know, while this is located right next door to the men's football locker room, all student athletes use these pools, right?
Yes, for all student athletes. For example, our women's soccer team, who they'll play a game at Prentup after their game. They'll come in, use our recovery pools, and the Thunder Shoot, where we first started the video. The old football locker room is in Dow Ward, which is the building directly west of the Champion Center. In our old football locker room, we reconfigured those into 6 different locker rooms. So they're beautiful locker rooms for our female student athletes. So all of our female student athletes, Olympic sports, have their own locker room. And so for our women's soccer team, they walk right down the Thunder Shoot, right into the locker room. So it's functional space for all of our student athletes.
However, Gray, with fearlessness,
So this is Dow Ward. This is their old football building. It's now an academic building. This is the weight room for Olympic sports athletes in Dow Ward.
and forged upon the backs of champions, the foundation.
So from the locker room, you're going into the indoor practice facility. This is the 4th floor coaches' offices. This is the Thunder Shoot, where you see all of the uniforms combinations we have here. We have 48 different combinations. Our black and gold, our traditional uniforms, we think are one of the best in college football, obviously. And but we have 48 different combinations. Student athletes love our different combinations, and we allow them to create combinations for our games. Our seniors do.
So, you know, for me, it was a bit of a surprise, and maybe it isn't to the students, how important the uniforms are to high school student athletes. You know, they really, as I'm told by you, Lance, and them, they take these uniforms and the sponsor, you know, the athletic equipment sponsor pretty seriously.
Yeah, they take it seriously, and it goes back to where we are now as far as you know, where social media is and how it drives so many and the influence that we have out there. So when they see the amount of combinations we have and that we've been one of the original Nike schools, that's attractive to them as well.
And when they come for their visit, isn't there something done where they get to choose a uniform to put on with the number they hope to wear and get a picture taken and stuff like that?
Yeah, we do those. We do a photo shoot for them as well. Hey, I've got a couple questions here at the bottom. It says, do the players get to keep their uniforms? The seniors do. And also, one thing you haven't seen on here to answer that question is we do senior portraits. So in outside the auditorium, when our seniors graduate, we give them a huge print of them in their uniform. So they get to take that as part of their graduation gift when they leave here. I think another question I saw on here in the chat was about funding. So the Champion Center, it was funded by private donations, no university funds, no state funds, no student fees as part of this building. So it was all privately funded through donors and alumni.
So undeniable in its truth, so unshakable.
That's the players' lounge. Oh, good, Brian. That's fine.
That it refuses to topple, refuses to give up.
So you can stop right here. This is our Champions Club training table. And so every time Brian brings his class over each year, we walk through here and I tell students, and I'll share this with you, this is open to all students on campus. So if you guys are on this side of campus and say you get tired of going to C4C or tired of eating dorm food or you don't want to go to UMC, from 10:30 to 2 o'clock every day, Champion Center is open to students. You can come here, take the elevator to the 3rd floor, pay at the window. You get to eat with the bus seat that day, and it's like $10, $11. and hang out with student athletes if you choose to. So it's great. We wanted to open up to students on campus and just, show them our student athletes are just regular kids doing what they're doing, just happen to be athletes.
Because the greatest champions represent more than just themselves.
That's second floor academics. That's the Olympic weight room and Dow Ward, the old building. NFL hallway. Long history of NFL players here, just showcasing those players. These are the locker rooms that we created for our female Olympic student athletes. So that's the team store. It's on the first level of the Champion Center. That's our too big equipment room.
That's pretty nice lounge.
Yeah, so that's the players' lounge. We wanted to have somewhere, like I said, they're here so much. We wanted to have them to be able to go somewhere and relax versus going back across campus or driving their car back to their apartment, wherever it may be. They can be here, feel comfortable, hang out, get to know each other a little bit, and just build camaraderie and connectedness. It's been great for us. This is our study area. That's Cheeto Bayawuzie, plays for the Dallas Cowboys. That's him jogging into the indoor practice facility. So the indoor practice facility is right next, just directly connect to our weight room. You can transition from weight training to speed and strength and conditioning training. It's a full football field in here with a 300-meter track around it. We use this primarily for morning training sessions. We like to be outside and practice though, weather permitting. But this is 110,000 square feet of space. It is the first net zero of its kind in the country, which means it's fully energized by solar panels. So we have solar panels on the east and west taking advantage of the Colorado sun. Those solar panels fuel 100% of the indoor practice facility and 40% of the Champion Center. So we're in a Platinum LEED certified building, and it allows us to do a lot of things in there as far as functional space.
Really an impressive space. And, a couple of things that I'll just comment on. Number one, the punters get all the practice they need in there because the ceiling is so high they can't possibly hit it.
Yeah, they got 90-foot drop floor to the ceiling, so we can punt and kick indoors, which is great. Beneath here are 600 parking spaces below the indoor practice facility, so there's parking for students on campus as well as graduate students and staff. So it's, once again, pretty functional space. Been great for us.
It's a great facility to have when the weather is inclement and we still want to get our practice in, so we never get interrupted because of bad weather. But, we really don't use it that much, do we, Lance? I mean, the weather is not that inclement here.
No, weather's very good here. I think last fall, I'll give you an example. I think we were in there throughout the whole football season maybe 5 times. It's because the weather was so nice throughout the fall and the winter. So, but it's great for other sports as well. So that's, you see track and field, cross country training there. We can never Olympic athletes that train in there. Jenny Simpson, who was an Olympic athlete, medaled in Rio. Emma Coburn. So it's space for everybody to use. Those are our soccer student athletes. This is our training table I mentioned to you earlier, where you guys are more than welcome to come eat.
So
this is one
of those that I was hoping the students were going to be able to meet. This guy's name is Jamie Guy, and I think I may have mentioned that he has won several Emmy Awards
yes.
As a videographer. His responsibility, and I'm sorry, Lance, I get kind of excited when I see Jamie, so let me go for just a second. Jamie, I think, his primary responsibility is getting practices and games on film and then editing it so that the coaches can look at the film with their players, do coaching, make adjustments, and things like that. In his spare time, he creates promotional videos. And so the one we're watching right now, I'm quite sure was done by Jamie. There was a series done 3 years ago called The Rise, which was all done by Jamie, and I think he won an award. There's another one that I've got queued up. It doesn't look like time's going to permit us to show it, but I'll give you the link to the playlist. It was all done, ad lib by a former player who's just reminiscing in the stadium about his time here in Boulder. But Jamie does some unbelievable work. And this
Yeah.
is his
Jamie's been he's been director of video for almost 20 years here. So he does great work. As Brian said, he's won a couple Emmy Awards. So I'd encourage you guys to go on YouTube and check those out, or Vimeo.
He also is always looking for interns to come and work for him. I don't know if he ever hired the guy that was in our last class, Lance, but I know he was close to doing something with him.
Yeah, he's always looking for interns. So if you're interested, reach out to me through Brian.
You see, champions aren't.
So this is the second floor of our building. It's a high performance sports center. So it's for all students on campus. It's not just for football. It's 28,000 square feet of space. It's occupied by doctors from the CU School of Medicine and Boulder Community Health. They brought their doctors on site on the second floor here. So as you see, there's MRI, PT, X-ray, rehab capabilities. There's a swim flume. There's a cycling class that's done on the second floor of the Champion Center. So it's for all students. So if you get injured, you're hiking, you're biking, something happens to you, this is the place for you guys to come. And they take all insurance on the second floor.
And, if a player, God forbid, were to be injured in a practice or a game, this facility is right there. There's no taking him to a hospital in an ambulance. I mean, maybe there is later, but, all of the.
No, we can do everything on site. Again, imagine, once again, you're looking from a 17-year-old perspective, the parents are actually relieved when they realize that we have capabilities right here on site. So if something were to happen to their son or daughter, we have MRI capabilities right here on site, which is great.
Cut from some special cloth. They're crafted by the instrument.
Is this the zero gravity treadmill?
That's the VO2. It's VO2 down on the second floor.
Oh, okay.
So lung capacity.
Use and by the way they approach each day.
This is pretty cool.
So this is in the training room. This is Chido Beawuzie of the second-round draft pick of the Dallas Cowboys. He's a starter for them now. This is our underwater treadmill. It allows, if someone's injured, to get them back on their feet. There's Phil Lindsay, all pro with the Denver Broncos, as you guys know, using some of our facilities as well. Steven Montez will be drafted in the NFL soon.
That's pretty cool.
So that's the rooftop terrace. You guys will get to see that. And it's also open for football games. So if you guys have season tickets, if you're a student with season tickets, you have access to the rooftop terrace as well. Great place to watch the game from the rail. Great place, as you see, to just have a view. We did 16 weddings there last summer. Great place to get married. Great place to get divorced. If you're going to get divorced to pay half, you might as well pay half up there. We do bar mitzvahs, christenings, whatever you want to do up there, you can do.
It's really a cool view. It overlooks the stadium floor, all the stands, but then beyond it is the entire university with all the red tiled roofs and the stonework. And then beyond that are the flat irons, that are have as a backdrop the rest of the front range. It is sort of like the exclamation point on the tour when you come up and you just take stock of where we are located with this beautiful.
And there's a recruiting lounge up there as well. There's a lounge right on the rooftop, and we do our recruiting dinners from there. Hey, Brian, I'm sorry. I've got to get on this NCAA call here in 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks for joining, Lance.
All right, guys. All right, go Buffs, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, I'll talk to you soon.
All righty.
From the grounds on which
Bye-bye.
from the culture in which they inhabit, from the philosophy they practice and the values that they preach. And perhaps most of all,
Phil Lindsay.
from those that surround it. You see, behind every great champion is an army, united in its ranks, supporting them.
So those guys are standing in what is called Legacy Hall. Legacy Hall was built to showcase the great success that we've had over the course of the history of our program. It was built primarily for your generation, because you didn't have a chance to experience that legacy. And, you know, we really think it's important to highlight that to the students that we're recruiting. So as an example, in this hall of fame, if you will, is a replica of the Heisman Trophy that was won by Rashaan Salam back in whenever it was, the early 90s. You know, we also have game film from all of the really important games in our history. So when we, you know, would win an Orange Bowl, when we won the national championship. And it's displayed in such a way that you can actually touch on an icon on a great big touch screen, and that game will play back for you. You know, all of the other awards that either the program has won or our players have won are all showcased in this, they call it Legacy Hall, but it's really the Hall of Fame for the Buffs. And it's done mostly to help us with our recruiting.
With them every step of the way. Because when it's time to step out onto those proving grounds, it doesn't matter who you are or where you've been. As long as you're ready to fight. When that moment comes, it doesn't matter where you've stood. As long as you're standing together. This is our moment. Let's take it. Let's stand together. Each and every one of us, shoulder to shoulder. Let's fight. It's our time. Together, we can all become champions.
Okay, so not as good as being there, but a pretty close second. Glad that we had Lance available to provide color commentary along the way. I had some other videos that I was going to show, but I think this is getting a little bit long. One of the things we need to be careful of is that, you know, we're not going to be as interactive. Therefore, we're not going to probably need as much time to cover some of the material that we have to cover in these Zoom conferences. I don't see the chat screen. Let me just make sure that we don't have any questions that are wanting to be asked before we hang up. Where would I go to do that, David?
Probably since you're sharing, you, go up to the top of the screen and there, click on your, or at the bottom actually, I guess, just click, reveal the menu.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
And you can, and actually you can stop sharing too, if that's easier.
There we go. Okay, so any questions that anyone has about what we just saw, about how it's used in our recruiting efforts? David, did you have something?
No, that was just impressive. I gotta imagine that, you know, once they get a student athlete to tour, you know, they're going to have a pretty high success rate, you know, with those athletes. I mean, they're not going to get everyone, but I imagine it's going to be pretty good. Any feedback on what their success rate is?
I know that anecdotally, and this comes from talking to Coach Tucker, Lance, previous coaches, that the biggest challenge that we have in selling ourselves to high school student athletes is getting them to campus. You know, if you think about our target markets being Texas and California, you know, for a while we were going to Georgia. I think we're still going to Florida. Getting them here is the thing that's most difficult to do, but most important to do. Because as you say, once they come and they see what it is that we have to offer, it leaves this really powerful impression on them. I don't know what the conversion rate is from, you know, a visit to a commitment, But I got to believe that there are very, very few that would actually make a commitment without having been here. The reason that some schools, and again, I'll go back to what I remember Mel Tucker saying about his time at Georgia, is that they recruit so heavily from the area that is 3 or 4 hours away from the University of Georgia, that they get lots of touches with the student athletes. They get to see them a lot. They get to develop a relationship with them. They get to develop credibility with them. And ultimately that pays off, with them feeling very, very comfortable committing themselves to play for the University of Georgia. We don't have as many student athletes in as close a proximity to us as they do, and therefore it's hard for us to have that many touches, to develop that level of rapport, that amount of credibility. But the good news is that we recognize it, and the good news is that we try to overcome it however we can. So yeah, it's like us. I didn't know I wanted to live here until I came and saw it. It's like so many of our students that come to go to school here, but they never leave. Right? It's just got that unbelievable feel to everything that's going on around. And I think the same is true for the high school student athletes.
Yeah.
Okay, so demonstration of capability, that's the topic. We're going to continue to work on it. On Thursday, we're gonna have a discussion about formal presentations. You do have an assignment that you need to do for that discussion. The assignment has to do with going and watching a YouTube video of your choice and summarizing it for us to refer to as we're having the discussion. I've created a Dropbox for that summary. So that's the way that we'll be recording attendance, but it's also a way to make the discussion as interactive as possible. The Zoom link has been posted to the plan for this week under Thursday's description, but I also think that it's probably the same link that we used here today. We will try to record it, and we will post it after the fact. As far as posting goes, I will try to get this classroom session posted as well for the students that weren't able to join, and we'll make that a regular routine of all of the meetings that we have on Zoom. We understand that sometimes it's going to be difficult to join the call, but we want to try to give you as much incentive to join the call as possible, make it as interactive as we possibly can. As far as attendance today is concerned, Zoom has a roll call capability. So there's been a record made of everybody's attendance here today, and I'll be using that to record today's attendance. For those that weren't able to attend, there's some other ways that are being suggested for me to track, who actually does watch the video and therefore count for attendance. I haven't decided on exactly the best way for me to do that yet, but we will be trying to accommodate the need for students to be able to look at the lectures after the fact. Okay. Is there anything I'm missing? Anybody think of anything that I'm missing?
Have a question.
Sure.
So is the paper that we're filling out for Thursday going to be a quiz grade, or is it just going to be an attendance grade?
So there's no points associated like you would normally associate with an assignment, but it's also not heavy lifting, Sydney. It's basically jot down some very quick notes, and it can be, very cryptic what you jot down. It's really more us wanting you to watch a YouTube video, give some thought to what you saw, and then be able to contribute that back to the class.
Okay.
So the attendance points are what I'm thinking go along with your completion of that assignment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions out there?
Yeah, Brian, is the name of that assignment TED Talks summary?
Yeah, and it's attached to the back of the weekly plan, Brenny.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, so if you go to the weekly plan, you'll see the Zoom links, and then I think page 2 of the weekly plan is something you can just cut and paste into a Word document.
Great, thanks.
But again, I don't view this as something that's heavy lifting in the way we normally think about an assignment. It's really more, I want you to be thoughtful about what you watch to prepare for the meeting on Thursday.
And Brian, just to clarify that you're asking them to watch a TED Talk, right? Not
What
just
did I
any
say?
YouTube. You said YouTube.
I'm sorry. Yes, a TED Talk.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Okay. All right, great. I think we're done. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. Be well, stay safe, keep working hard, keep letting us know what we need to make this go as the situation continues to evolve. Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye now.
Thanks.